I get to dive into the Bible every Tuesday morning at 7:30 with a small group of people who like to open up their text and just see where it takes us. Last week, we found ourselves in Hebrews chapter 12, and this is what verse 15 says. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. See that no one is sexually immoral or is godless like Esau, who for a single meal sold his inheritance rights as the oldest son. Afterward, as you know, when he wanted to inherit his blessing, he was rejected. Even though he sought the blessing with tears, he could not change what he had done. In short, the writer of Hebrews is saying, don't be like Esau. But here's my problem with that. I kind of like Esau. I'm actually not as fond of his trickster brother, Jacob. So here's the Esau story that we find in Genesis 25. Jacob and Esau are twins, they're brothers, and they were born to Isaac and Rebekah. And Esau is a rugged outdoorsman, a hunter, and his dad's favorite. Jacob liked to hang out among the tents, and he's the one that Rebekah loved. If we pick it up in verse 29, this is what we see. Once, when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country, famished, and he said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." And Jacob replied, "First sell me your birthright." "Look, I'm about to die," Esau said. "What good is the birthright to me?" But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." And so he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew, and he ate it, and he drank, and he got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. Okay, yes, I'll agree. Esau's a pretty short-sighted guy. He's a bumbler. He trades an incredibly important yet intangible facet of his life, his birthright privileges as the firstborn son, just because he's really hungry. He disregarded his birthright. The Hebrew word is that he bazad his birthright. Bazah has the sense that you trample it underneath your foot. Yeah, that was a boneheaded move, but I don't think it warrants the treatment that he gets a couple of chapters later when we hit chapter 27. Here, some time has passed, and Isaac's getting old, he's approaching death, and he wants to give his eldest son Esau his blessing before he dies. This is a very big deal. Esau is going to be officially granted most favored nation status by his dad. Well, Rebekah hears this, she's having none of it. So she conspires with her favorite, Jacob, to deceive the blind Isaac into giving the blessing to Jacob. Listen to this blessing Isaac imparts mistakenly to Jacob, thinking that he's Esau. "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." Pretty cool, huh? What child of the ancient world wouldn't want to hear these words coming from their father? It's incredibly sad that Jacob had to resort to deception to hear them. But what comes next? It's going to break your heart. So Jacob leaves his father's tent, and Esau enters. Let's pick it up in verse 32. His father Isaac asked him, "Who are you?" "I am your son," he answered, "your firstborn, Esau." Isaac trembled violently and said, "Who was it then that just hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came, and I blessed him, and indeed he will be blessed." When Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me too, my father." But Isaac said, "Your brother came deceitfully, and he took your blessing." Then Esau asked, Haven't you reserved any blessing for me?" Isaac answered Esau, "I've made him lord over you, and have made all his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I possibly do for you, my son?" Esau said to his father, "Do you only have one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father." Then Esau wept aloud. And get a load of what Isaac leaves Esau with. Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off of your neck. Seriously? Is that the best Isaac can do? That's not a blessing. That's lame. That sounds more like a curse to me. No wonder Esau leaves the scene hungry for vengeance against his brother. This story is one of those that reminds me how little I understand about how the blessing birthright thing worked in ancient Israel. But one thing I think is clear. Whatever Isaac has to offer, it's in strikingly short supply. As a matter of fact, there's only enough for one. There is a singular favored status, and if you're not it, then you're banished far from the richness of the earth, and you're never going to drink heaven's dew. There is simply nothing left for you. That just stinks. So what does this have to do with Hebrews 12? Let's look at it again. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. See that no one is sexually immoral or is godless like Esau, who for a single meal sold his inheritance rights as the oldest son. Afterward, as you know, when he wanted to inherit his blessing, he was rejected. Even though he sought the blessing with tears, he could not change what he had done. Well, now that we know Esau's story, we see how he was rejected by Isaac, and he's distraught because he can't undo his impulsive mistake of selling his birthright for some red stew. He was an idiot back then. He'd probably admitted himself, driven by his appetites. And now he's stuck, and it's tragic. He desperately seeks his father's favor and his father's blessing. But his father's blessing is limited, and his dad is permanently out of stock. But things aren't the same for the people addressed in Hebrews 12. Notice what verse 15 says. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God. So how much grace, how much blessing does God have? I would argue that God has an infinite stock of his own grace and an infinite capacity to generate more. There is simply no end to the abundance of God's blessing. In fact, he's anxious to pour it out on us. It delights him to overflow our cupped hands or our 5-gallon buckets with his grace. What if the same would have been true about Isaac? Let's rewrite the scene. Esau comes in and Isaac says, "Oh, fantastic. Jacob was just in here and I gave him that fertile part of the valley down by the spring and a 12-piece set of cookware. He is on cloud 9. And I'm thrilled to see you, son. What do you think about that land to the west that flows with milk and honey? We have got all kinds of possibilities." That's what I think the writer of Hebrews is getting at. Please don't be like Esau, because God is nothing like Isaac. You can trust in his unlimited grace. If you're a bumbler and you trample on precious things, you might be an idiot, but all is not lost. You are not lost. Just make sure that you don't fall short of the grace of God. He's not stingy. He's not limited. He's slow to anger, and he abounds in love. Don't keep yourself from approaching him again and again in humility and trust, holding out your hands and saying, "Oh, please, Father, please bless me too." What you will find, I am sure of it, is that you are the one whom God favors. You, Tom, and you, Patty, and you, Jacob, and you, Esau. He loves you extravagantly, and there is plenty of his favor to go around, with 12 baskets left over. I like to imagine Esau someday encountering God and tearfully pleading, "Haven't you reserved any blessing for me?" "Oh, my dear boy," says the Lord, "you simply can't imagine. Let me tell you all about it while we share a pot of stew." So thanks for coming along on this short journey into the Bible text. I hope you've noticed something new in the landscape, or maybe even a fresh way to view territory that you've covered many times before. Whatever the case, it's good to have you along for the trip. You never know what we might discover as we crack open this fascinating text together.